Tech TV was a infotainment cable television channel. It was a non-premium channel, which a lot of the stuff I have covered has been premium so far. But it was made by Ziff Davis, which is a publishing company known specifically for magazines. It was later bought by Vulcan Ventures, which is a non-profit. It's primarily used for real estate. However, it is also a attempted to be a tech distributor around 2006 to 2008. So, and they seemingly focus a large amount on AI, having previously focused on it during the 1990 AI boom, and are currently focusing on it in the current AI boom. It was bought by G4 Media in 2004. It was killed off in the same year. Now, it was a very well-beloved channel, seemingly based off of the few remaining blogs and independent articles I can find on it. Tech TV was well-beloved and was very popular, especially among tech enthusiasts who did not have a large-scale place to congregate yet. Reddit was created sometime in 2005, as were a large amount of social medias. But one of the other things is the internet wasn't really centralized due to the limits of dial-up, in which was pretty well established up until 2004 when DSL was becoming a thing. Now, is it DSL or DCL? Yeah, DSL. There was a lot of mourning for Tech TV, it seems, with it being a very popular article to write on in non-independent blogs such as Wired, the Adweek, and Tech Unplugged, which are all, to my understanding, large-scale publications. Before 2004, 2005, the main way you would find tech information would either be via magazine, some sort of accredited program, some form of book, or just knowing how to do it. The internet was very decentralized around that time, so finding a good source of consistent information that would always equate to your problems was probably a great difficulty. And with the large amount of friction that would bring, I would understand for a lot of the common individuals who would normally make up the tech sense to, or would be repairing their own tech, to not have that information. It's not like today where you could just go to iFixit or Reddit for information on how to physically fix the computer or check what is wrong. You either had to know, you had to read it somewhere, or you had to know a place. I think that's one of the things that's somewhat missing in the modern internet is because it's very centralized, it doesn't feel like a bunch of independent communities that occasionally cross over, sort of like buildings that you go to and from. It feels like it's all just one monolithic space. It's all consuming. Another thing that made Tech TV less productive, I guess, is less popular. That's it. Was the rise of the the laptop. 4 years after Tech TV was shut down, the MacBook Air, the best-selling laptop ever, launched. 2004 was when a large amount of laptops were sold, and it's considered the time period that popularized the laptop and the idea of a personal computer rather than a family computer or an office computer. Because, to my understanding, the main way that people access the internet or just generally a computer program before this was on some form of household computer, which would be some form of desktop. Whereas when the laptop gained popularity, people viewed it more as something that you bring along with you and that you access consistently. And this inevitably led to the large scale and impact that the internet had on the general consensus and population. This made it so that tech TV, overall as an institution, either needed to adapt to the rise of laptops and the internet and become less about desktops, family computing, and resolving issues with family computers. Not that these wouldn't necessarily have some overlap, but it was a very much different world they were going into. And one of the things that was their biggest issue, in my opinion, was that a lot of what they were saying with the centralization of the internet was simply being put out there for free. And it's a lot faster to find something on the internet after the centralization started around 2005 to find something via Google search, because when the websites all started to sort of fuse together and shift towards one area, they have to all adapt or starve. And as information becomes more coalesced, it becomes easier to find that information as a whole. For example, it is probably easier to find information on pirating than it was 20 years ago. Like, a lot of people probably didn't exactly know what seeding was, or what a VPN was, at least in terms of pirating. They were just ripping straight off LimeWire, most likely. There was some movements by the tech TV hosts and the original people who moved it to bring it back, and they're wanting to bring it back again, and I don't know how well that'll do. Again, with the internet becoming a much larger entity, and with specialized websites like iFixit being for more in-depth physical hardware stuff, with guides and everything like that, sort of like allrecipes.com for tech repair, I guess is a good way of putting it. It has become significantly easier to find tech information, and it is a lot easier to make your own repairs and find places that will sell that stuff, that are reasonable, recommendable, good reviews, all that stuff. Another thing is that the rights for some of their shows be scattered across the winds. I don't know about the show itself, but the rights to the term screensavers and call for help were based off of the magazines published by Ziff Davis, and I don't know if they have the copyright or trademarked those terms. And ZDTV, when they sold to Vulcan Ventures, grandfathered them in so that they could use those terms for their television shows. Sort of as like, you're taking this off our hands, you can do a favor. We can do you a favor with this. But I do not know who currently owns the trademarks or copyrights on that, because I know Zaff Davis still owns the trademark for Popular Aviation. Now, one of the things that was an issue is apparently they were putting out information on hijacking signals, which sounds like it would be expensive if the FCC ever figured out that they were the source of that, because they really don't like it when you do that. And it's a federal crime to interfere with communication signals of any kind. That's why you can't have little transistors over certain wattages, and I believe Electro Boom, covered this in when he made a extremely short range high amp radio, or whatever wording he used. I haven't watched that video in, God, 5 years, I would like to say. But essentially, with their um, fighting their network and demographics, uh, moving away from television to get general tips and information and more towards the internet, because this wasn't a widely popular show, despite the fact that it was accessible to most Americans with some form of cable access. It was a relatively niche in topic, and it never was very high in the ratings either. For example, most individuals with a family computer, when it was broken, would most likely take it to some form of local repair shop or a Fry's electronics store, at least in the United States, because it was simply easier to do that. And they didn't necessarily have someone who would have the know-how in how to repair that. A lot of this information would have either been a black box to most consumers, or they would have viewed it as a strange and anomalous thing to um, be either looked down upon, or as something outside of the norm that they didn't necessarily have to know because there were places to take it. Sort of like how a lot of people today don't know how to replace their own phone screens. Actually, I can't really speak to that demographically. Forget I said that. Like, I've seen places that tried to charge $400 for a phone screen replacement, and a phone screen cost like $12. I was like, what the actual fuck are you doing? What kind of crack are these people smoking to make them think I'm willing to pay a on almost 50 times markup? Like, it's insane, really. Honestly, it's so much money. And I don't doubt they make money. Like, one repair is able to cover 50 other repairs. Not exactly, but I'm rounding up for dramatic effect. The most dramatic of effects. And essentially, it's this weird position that they were in where they were helpful, but a lot of people weren't viewing them either as needed due to the lack of wide scale consumption of electronics. Like, computers were still very much seen as a very sci-fi concept. Like, there were movies that got away with saying they were sci-fi in 2003 just because they had a computer in it. And that's actually kind of funny to me, because a lot of the interactions I had with American pop culture were after 2004, where it would be nearly impossible not to see a laptop in some form of movie or another. And it honestly is just fascinating to me that something like this moves so quickly. The only thing that I know was consumed faster by the general public was the refrigerator. Because the refrigerator was adopted nationwide in around 6 months, if I remember correctly. And I believe that the one thing I forgot, Tech TV, I believe, was hit by the .com bubble. I don't want to say it was really that bad, but certainly their parent company wasn't happy with it, which might have been one of the main causal effects to sell it off as a result of all that strife in regards, in particular, to the .com bubble and the major blow that it would have had. Because I'll be honest, that was very bad for a lot of people. A lot of people invested a lot of money into the .com bubble. Some of that might have been, some of them might have been simply due to the fact that a lot of people were putting their retirement into it. I do not know. That's a thing with or not 504s, 401ks, is that a lot of them are managed by some form of slush fund, or or what do you call it? Like BlackRock sort of stuff. I can't think of the term right now. But it's essentially one of those things where once it goes into a 401k or some form of retirement account, it's a black box to a lot of people that they'll just leave to some form of believed professional or another. And I don't know if that's really that good, because like that's what led to the 2008 housing crisis, and is going to lead to not the next housing crisis, but the next stock crisis, because when the AI bubble bursts, and it will burst, it's not a matter of if, but when, especially with something overinflated as AI. Like, they have no plans to make money, and once they do start making money, it's either going to be a bloodbath because a ton of consumers will simply abandon them due to the fact that they are not fully capable of actually being productive with it. Like, the only people who are actually making money with AI are the people making AI slop books with it.